Cooley Moore, coming at you to let you know about the Vigilantes. Of course, everybody, I mean, if you watch the scrap, if you listen to the scrap at all, you know about the Vigilantes. But I want to be very clear and let everybody know we are moving to Patreon. The Vigilantes are moving to Patreon. There's been so many people who said, hey, I don't do Facebook. I can't be a part of the Vigilantes. I'm not on Facebook. And I get it. We get it. So now we are moving to Patreon. It is independent of any of the social media platforms. It is its own thing. You can join us on Patreon. So what does that mean if you're already a Vigilante? Man, go join Patreon. We will stop your payment. We will refund. If you are on an annual subscription, we will refund what has remained. We will make it happen. We are going to take care of you and get you in there. It's already a beautiful platform. So much going on in there. These are the things. If you're not a Vigilante, I'm just asking you, why not? Go to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/thevigilantes. And you get access to the Vigilante-only swag shop, the Fire Away live Q&As, behind the scenes of the scrap. You influence the scrap on where it's going to go, member-only exclusive live videos, complete access to all the past archives, all the past forums, all the past Q&As, the 15% off Vigilante code for the firehousevigilance.com store, access to the after party, man. I mean, that's every scrap, the after party. It's unbelievable. And of course, the VIP forums where we talk to some of the best in the business one-on-one in a giant meeting where everybody has a voice. It's exciting. So if you're not a Vigilante, go be one. If you are a Vigilante, go sign up at patreon.com so you can get it transferred over. It's going to be a fun transfer, but we're making it happen. It's already been amazing today. I think over 100 people today have already signed up, and we just announced it this morning. So go be a part. Vigilantes, patreon.com/thevigilantes, or go to firehousevigilance.com and you can click the button there. Very, very easy. Be a part. Be one of the cool kids. Why not? Make it happen. Love you all. See ya.
The leadership thing is just, it's so important to me, you know, and with leadership comes culture. And sitting through hearing some of these extremely heavy hitters this week, dude, talk about leadership and culture. Every single one of them, every single person that spoke this week said culture starts in the firehouse, right? Everybody tries to say that it comes from the chiefs, right? The chiefs are the bad ones, and the chiefs are this, or the chiefs are that, right? No, the culture starts when you go to give pass on in the morning to the oncoming shift, and, you know, do they treat you like a human being, or are they just like, oh, hey man, the truck's good, you know, peace out, right? And your culture starts with not talking shit behind people's back. That's where your fucking culture starts, bro.
Cooley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap number 245. My guest this evening is Mike Gagliano, working for over 33 years of experience with the Seattle Fire Department and the United States Air Force. He retired as the captain of Ladder 5 and remains a proud member of Fire Station 31. Captain Gagliano has written numerous fire service articles, is the co-author of the best-selling books Air Management for the Fire Service and Challenges of the Firefighter Marriage. He's a member of the Fire Engineering FDIC Advisory Board, Firefighter Air Coalition Board, on the advisory board of the UL Firefighter FSRI Institute, and teaches across the country. He partners with his wife, Ann, firelife.com, to teach on strategies for developing and maintaining a strong marriage and family. Two of his classes are two of my favorites. I've caught them every chance I can get. The Art of Go, No Go, and of course, This House Rocks. Both versions, the Mike version and the Mike and Mike version, both of them excellent. He is my favorite redheaded captain, without a doubt. My amigo, Mike Gagliano. It is my pleasure to welcome you back to the scrap once more for episode number 245.
Well, thanks, man. It's my third time, so maybe this time I'll actually do a better job. I'm gonna not for lack of trying. We keep trying to do a good one, and maybe the third one will be the charm.
Brother, you have killed it every time. So,
Thank
and
you.
you're in very elite company because there's only been 6 people who've been on 3 times. So it's very,
Wow,
very. I hope you're proud.
I'm
So
very
welcome.
proud. Yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
I just want you to know. I think I said this to you at the last. We've been fortunate. We've been in the same place 3 different times in the last month, which is unique. It's hard
yes,
to get together.
very.
But
I hope you.
Ann and I were both blessed to be on one of the first one of these that you ever did. And you were learning, you were getting your feet under you and all that thing. And I remember when we got done, because we had a lot of fun, with the dog
The dog
barking in the
showing up.
background.
Yes.
It was awesome, man. It was, and I told her then, and we both agreed, there's a level of authenticity there that was evident and a passion that was there. And it absolutely doesn't surprise me one bit that you're having good success, that you and Amanda are having good success as a couple, that you're walking it together. And I'm proud of you. And man, I'm just glad to see it. And I hope you guys stay at it. I hope you keep going. I hope you stay with the same passion and fire, and don't let any jerk, any you know
Yes.
people with the wrong motives or whatever dissuade you from doing what you know in your heart is the right thing to do.
Hey, brother, I absolutely love hearing that. Thank you so much for the compliment, especially considering the source. You know that you and Ann have been a big influence on me and Amanda, so I can only say thank you for the compliment.
Well,
I'm the world's worst at taking compliments, so I'll just put it that way. So thank you. I'm going to catch you up here and say, Alan said in level 1 staging, let's go. Here we go from Jeremy Humphrey. I transferred from the old system. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'm A-okay. What's going on? Let's go. Live scrap is always live. Captain Gagliano, one of the nicest human beings in the fire service. That's Fireman 718 saying that.
Thank you,
Columbus,
man.
Georgia is in the house. Let's get it, Cap. Going to ask him about his favorite guitar later on. Nice collection of axes that comes from, and that's Luke Stevenson saying that. And Luke, let me explain to you. This is just like that's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to his collection of axes. So I'll let him explain that I messed it up. But Nicholas Morgan said, "Great to see you both, Mike and Corley. I know this is going to be great." So there we go. We got the intro going. I'm going to do the housekeeping, and let's get the sponsors in here and let's acknowledge them because they are awesome. I love the beautiful sponsors. The OG sponsor of the scrap, Key Hose. Check them out online at keyhose.com. Follow them on Facebook. Affordable Drill Towers, on a mission to bring you cost-effective and versatile training props like the affordable bailout prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high point rescues. Then they make the affordable standpipe prop, which you can roll into the classroom for standpipe theory, and you can also roll it out into the parking lot, and you can actually pump it for realistic flows and pressures. It's from one of the best, with more than 60 drill towers installed. The affordable drill tower comes in several configurations and comes standard with a standpipe system. You can choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs, and you can integrate it into your existing Connex boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing that you can't do on an affordable drill tower is live fire trading. Call Steve, 844-55-TOWER, or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. Firefighter safety and accountability starts with being able to quickly find and identify individual firefighters operating on the fireground. Identifier safety combines the best in photoluminescent materials for durable firefighter identification solutions that can glow for up to 20 hours, no switches, no batteries, which means being able to rapidly identify firefighters by name, unit, or assignment, even under hot fire conditions. All specifically designed and tested for the rigors of the job. Be seen on scene, identifiersafety.com. And finally, Speed Swivel, FDC adapters. Mike Cornelius, my man, and his invention, the firefighter's solution for missing or stolen brass FDC swivels. Visit speedswivel.com. You can download their PowerPoint. You can download their videos. They explain it all right there with all the information. You can provide Mike with your zip code, and he will let you know who the local Redhead Brass Speed Swivel distributor is. Put a Speed Swivel on your apparatus inventory today. Go to speedswivel.com. And with that being said, the housekeeping is done and we're ready to get to scrapping. There we go. People are logged in, they are hyped, and we're ready to bring it. And I'm going to lead it off. And man, Fire in the Sky Conference. You've been putting this together. I wanted to say, how much did you flex your network to bring in this level of instruction? Because I was pulling up the flyer, and good Lord, it was John Norman, Mike Dugan, Dave McGrail. You put yourself at the bottom. It had Mike Gagliano at the bottom, but everybody in between. Go ahead and talk about the Fire in the Sky Conference. It's in Houston, Texas, this September. Yes,
it is. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it. First off, I appreciate all the sponsors. People aren't aware that without the sponsors, a lot of this type of stuff cannot happen. And I do want you to know that all of you that are in the chat room listening, I mean, it just blows me away that you would come and spend, an evening with me. You don't get your time back tonight. I want you to know I take it really seriously. And I really genuinely want to, whatever he asked me, I want to speak from my heart and give you a few things you can use. But I want you to know I appreciate you very much. It just means the world to me that you would come and listen. The Houston High Rise Conference, the Fire in the Sky, as we called it, I thought that was kind of catchy. It's going to be September 10th through the 12th. So we're going to have September 11th in the middle there, as you math geniuses can figure out. We're actually going to do a little bit of a memorial to open that up. And our kind of thought was, and in talking with the FDNY folks, what better way to memorialize and never forget what went on that day and the incredible heroic stuff, the amazing stuff that still blows me away. I know people are saying that we're forgetting about it. I'm not.
Right.
Man, I'm not at all.
Right.
I'm still just mesmerized by what folks did, the selfless stuff. And but the 10th through the 12th, yeah, you're right. I did. I ended up calling a bunch of my friends. I have a lot of friends, and so
yes,
I have a budget. I'm on a budget. I have there's a set of topics that I'm interested in this first one having. The very first guy I called was one of the best mentors I have in John Norman. And once I had John committed, then the rest of it kind of fell into place from there with, we're doing high rise. So how do you do that without Dave McGrail being involved?
Sure.
And it was also important to me as you go down the list. I know I'm getting a lot of calls from some of my friends. Why wasn't I asked? And the simple answer is I only had so many slots, and we did have some commitments that we had. We're in the Houston area, so we wanted to have some Houston folks there. So, and some Texas folks. So who better than Mo and Clyde? I got Daniel DeYer coming up from, if you haven't been introduced to Daniel DeYer yet, oh my Lord, that's one of the most accomplished tacticians with actual real experience. He's not just talking about it. He's actually done it, and terrific instructor. And also some of the folks that are, maybe you don't know as well, or that younger, or that, and probably most of you know Clark Lamping, but Clark's going to do a big box class for us. We're going to do not only just high rise, because that doesn't touch all of your shores. Not everybody is doing specifically high rise type of stuff, but we're going to do a heavy dose of mid rise, which is all of you in some form or fashion, right? I mean, all of you got that stuff. And if you don't, we're also going to do some big box stuff, and that's all of you, warehouses and all the other stuff that's going on. We're going to try really hard to touch on not just the same old stuff class after class, but we're going to break it up into 1.5-hour sessions and really give you a broad swath of some awesome strategic and tactical stuff that you can use. I did put myself at the bottom because that was appropriate. I'm the caboose in this whole little thing, man. But I'll tell you, I'm excited about what we're going to do if I can pull it off. And I don't know if you have seen the Houston Mayday, where Captain Eric Apt is screaming for breath up in the. Have you seen that? It's one of the most compelling. Yeah, it's one of the most compelling pieces of video I have ever seen. You rarely, gang, get to see what out of air looks like because nobody's typically recording it. What you get to see with out of air is you get to see the other side of it, where they're dead coming out of the structure, or they're blue and you're trying to revive them, or we're having funerals. That was one of the more compelling ones because it was actually captured on the radio, and his mic was clipped, and you could actually hear Captain Apt going through hell in there as he was out of air, as he was choking, as he was crying, and the whole 9 yards. It's just compelling. Eric's going to be there. Eric's a friend of mine. And Eric, as you would imagine, he was very cool about telling his story, but he would tell you it's not my proudest moment. You know, nobody wants to get run out of air in a structure. Nobody wants to be on the radio choking and screaming and coughing. And man, you know what? To that guy's credit, and I hope if nothing else, I hope it's a testimony to you folks out there, you fire-breathing dogs. You're going to make mistakes and things are going to go wrong, and this thing's going to jam you up quicker than you could ever imagine. And you can plan and you can script and we can train. And then at some point you have to be able to adapt when things just don't go right. And it's crazy and it's nuts. And maybe you're extending risk farther than you thought you would because there's a life to save. And so now all cards are on the table and we're risking everything, right?
Right.
That's the position Captain Apt was in. And if it goes right, he and I, he trusts me enough to do it in the right way. He and I are going to do a little collaboration, and I'm going to interview him and talk about what exactly went on from his own words, what he was experiencing, advice and whatever, should you ever come close to getting that position or be in that position where you're out of air. And now, man, it's all hell's broken loose.
Right. Right.
I think it's going to be I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a compelling hour and a half of conversation that I think most of you have never heard before. And so, Corley, to keep it short, that's what we're going to try to do. Chris Bloom from Meridian is going to do those types of structures, those large structures under construction and now on fire. Nice. So we're going to touch that segment of it. So, we got a host of very cool people doing very cool things, and I'm glad they all said yes. And for my friends out there, and those of you who are going to become my friends, if I didn't call you, if we do this right, we're going to do it next year, and we're going to cycle through to a new round of topics, and we're going to have additional anchor type of classes, and we're going to really try hard in that area, which is a underrepresented area. I think fire conference wise, we're going to really try hard to do something that you can be proud of and that's worth your time, effort, energy. And just so you know, the after party, we are going to give away to the folks that support Corley, that support the mission that they're trying to do, that are part of the long-term run here, just as a thank you to Corley for doing such a great job and to get the message out. Somehow, some way, we are going to give away a free pass for all the classroom stuff to one of the members of the after party. So we'll
be there tonight.
Yeah, somewhere in there we'll figure out how to.
We're going to figure out how to do it. Sam will pull up a Google.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. If you catch me on Facebook, or certainly Steve from Affordable Drill Towers, you mentioned him.
Yeah.
This is a co-share between Affordable Drill Towers and the Firefighter Air Coalition. If you check either of those sites, you can see the flyer. You can see the registration.
I was going to ask, how can you register? Register?
That's how. Yep. Find that flyer and get on there. And then once we have firm class information, I'm actually building the schedule over the next 2 days of who's teaching when. You can come to one day, all 3 days, whatever you want.
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's get to the topics that we want to talk about. And the Fire in the Sky Conference was the first one. But and in the after party, we're going to figure out a way to give away one of those passes. So be there for it. If you're a vigilante, why our calling matters, man. I love this topic. It's the one you sent me, and I really do love it. So everybody out there, we're going to start our topic discussion. Get your questions in for Captain Gagliano. Sam is monitoring the chat, and he will send it. But go ahead, Mike. Let's talk about why our calling matters.
Yeah, I hope you recognize I think even in the wording of the question, it's calling.
Yes.
And why our job matters, why this thing of ours matters. I love the idea of a calling. I think there's more to it than just a job or a profession or whatever else. And I'm not disparaging either of those terms, but a calling feels to me like something different and something special and something that you're almost compelled to do. And I think it drives you to different parts of your being that maybe not necessarily a job may not do. It gets down into your heart and it becomes a part of you, and it becomes this drive to want to give of yourself in a way or in an exertion of effort and talent and energy towards something that truly matters. And that's where I would say that's what I believe about our calling. Not to be overly dramatic about it, but our calling matters.
Yes.
And I think it's the type of thing that can help you to overcome some of the drudgery that we're going through with, call volumes that are either excessive or not all that sexy. I think a calling is something that is independent of whether your leadership is awesome or it's not, because you can't control that, and so those of you that are working for a leader that isn't all that great, or working for a crew that isn't as fired up as you want to be, that sucks and it's a bummer. And that experience is not unique to any of us who's been on the job for a while, but the calling pushes you through that. The calling makes you want to say, yeah, well, my boss is a turd, but the calling matters. And I'm not going to let the turds around me, and I'm not going to let the drudgery that sometimes set in, or political wackadoo stuff, or all the stuff that, makes you kind of lose your passion. A calling makes you want to move forward and be a part of something that's bigger and facilitate it as much as it depends upon you. And our calling, gang, when you get right down to it, some of you are going to tell me that this is overly simplified, and that's just fine. I'm not all that bright. So, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. Our calling, gang, finds its voice in the middle of the night, or, in the early morning hours, or in the middle of the day, when a citizen is having the worst day of their lives. And it's a day they don't plan for. They didn't know it was coming. I mean, some of you that are listening right now, you're probably at work. There's a citizen right now in your jurisdiction. That day's coming in like 20 minutes. And they don't know it. They're watching the news, or they're having their dinner, or they're driving home from work, or they're, listening to some crappy emo or dance band or something right now instead of good music. And, now the bad day's here. Gang, our calling, when you get right down to it, is that moment in time when somebody is having the single worst day of their life, and the only shot they have of that day having any kind of reasonable conclusion or ending is what you bring to the table because of what you did in preparation for the moment that bell went off. And in that moment when the bell went off, please hear me, it's going to become very clear when you show up whether or not you've paid the price to actually deserve to be at the citizen's very worst day. And we can get inoculated to it a little bit because we go to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of runs all the time, right? And how many people have you seen, that their hearts were stopped? And, I've lost count of how many times. How many auto accidents have you been to? How many fires have you been to? And for you, that day can start to become a little bit samey and a little bit, oh, yeah, we went to a kitchen fire, and we pulled somebody, off the balcony, or we zapped somebody and their heart started beating. And that was pretty cool because, they woke up and went, what was going on? Or we zapped them with Narcan or whatever. Remember this, for you, it's just another run for the most part, and, some of you will tell lies about it, how big the fire was, or, how many people you saved or whatever. But for you, it's another day. For the citizens, our calling finds its voice in that just another day is a day that no matter what circumstances were going on around us, or what the variables were, or how good our leadership was or wasn't, we paid the price on that day to be so good that we gave the citizens the very best possible chance they could have. And listen, if that's your focus, it allows you to cut through the clutter, to cut through the noise, and to have what I believe can be an absolutely epic professional and personal experience in our calling. If you want to end it up at the end of the day, at that when you're all retired and look back on it, that's how at the very end, when you hang your coat on the hook, you look back and you say, this was worth it because I gave it what I had. And when I showed up, I was a firefighter. I mean, Corley, we go to a lot of conferences and people introduce themselves all the time, and your chat room's full of people from all over the country, right?
Yes.
And probably if I said, tell me a little bit about yourself, you would say whatever's true about your fire department. You would say, oh, I come from a little fire department in the mountains of Kentucky, or I come from Miami-Dade, or, and everything in between.
Right.
Gang, you know what the delineator is for every one of you? There's interesting things about every place you work. And I love going to all different sizes and shapes of fire departments. You know what the most important thing is? You're a firefighter or you're not. That's the most important thing. You either deserve to wear our badge. You've either paid the price to put our badge on your chest, to own the right to be able to have the fire service badge on your chest, or you don't deserve to wear it. Whether you're a volunteer or a paid on call, or a big city or a small city or a county or a fire authority or a work on a firefighting crew on a ship or in a wildland team or whatever it is. Man, I think all of that stuff is just amazing. And they all have their challenges and their intricacies and their disciplines. And, those of us who have worked in the big city, man, I went out on a red card deployment, a wildland deployment. Oh my Lord. You talk about being over our heads and feeling like fish out of water.
Fish out of water. Yes. That's the best term.
Such a great respect for everything that is going on. But if you will just for a moment contemplate the enormity of being able to be called a firefighter and to actually earn that name and earn that title and wear our badge, you will want to commit to it. And that's what we need. We need folks that will commit to our calling, take it as a calling. And then, once you do that, now you take over where you work. Now you start getting other people to get on that train. You start recruiting other like-minded brothers and sisters, and you get that thing going, kicking butt and taking names. And I'll tell you what, we'll probably talk about This House Rocks. Once you get that team going, baby, you will fight for that. Nobody will have to tell you it's a calling anymore. When you get that kind of team going, you will sacrifice for it, you will fight for it, and you will enjoy it as much as anything you've ever had in your life.
I love it. I absolutely, and I'm telling you this right now. You got to slow down. You got to slow down, Cap. This is my timestamps. You can see 820 is where I started timestamping, and then 821, 822, 823, 824, 825. That's you can't go timestamp a minute, or you have to timestamp the entire thing. A killer stuff. So please, and when I say you have to slow down, you do not. Please understand that. That is crazy that I have. I had to timestamp every minute because it was a great sound bite.
Well, Corley, just real quick. It's important that we start talking about what we do in the right way. And I think we need to give it the importance that it deserves. And we get lost in a lot of other things that are true about the fire service. And that's just the nature of it, because, we do have to scrub toilets, and we got to clean the firehouse, and we got to wash the rigs, and we got to go on inspections, and we got to do 1,000 other things that maybe aren't the most dynamic and sexy thing. And that can wash over what our true calling is. Every single thing that we do, and for those of you in the fire marshal's office that are listening, everything that you do, those of you that are in admin offices, or those of you in the fire investigation unit, all of you in the surrounding stuff that we do, at the end of it all, if your focus is at dark 30, at the end of an axe, at the end of a nozzle, at the end of a life pack, at the end of a fire truck, that is the extension of our calling. It's very easy to have a mission that you can be excited about. It's very easy to have a mission you can get fired up about. And I think it helps you get through the down times.
Boom. Again, I got a timestamp 826 also. I can say this one's 827. 0827. There we go. Very easy. Hold on. Let me make my note. Okay, I got questions coming at you from the audience. The first question coming at you from the audience, and it's coming at you from Brian LaFleur, which I think you may know this guy.
I do.
Because of you, he is actually coming on the scrap June 24th of this year. So, but his question to you coming at you is, as a senior officer, did you find more of a calling in doing the job or in the leadership side of the job?
Well, that's a good question, and that's part that gang is why. Let me just tell you, what did you say the date was for Brian being on? Corley?
June 24th.
Gang, mark your calendar, and I hope you'll listen in to my brother Brian. I mean, you talk about. I'm very blessed to travel around the country, and occasionally you just meet these kindred spirits and these guys that are quietly just kicking butt and taking names. And let me tell you how I will answer your question, Brian, but I'm going to embarrass you since you asked me a question. I'm going to embarrass you.
Okay.
You want to talk about how you know when a guy has influenced incredibly, not only behind the scenes, but in the front, and has said the things that need to be said and modeled what this thing is truly about? Here's how you know. His fire chief called me. The fire chief of Brian's department called me and said, if it wasn't for the mentoring that I received as a firefighter from Brian, I don't know if I would still be in the fire service. That's his current fire chief. That is, to me, emblematic of somebody who is deserved to be listened to. And I'm really proud you're giving him a voice. And brother, I I can't tell you how glad I am that we're friends and how honored I am at the nice things that you always say. I don't know, to be honest, I don't know that I can distinguish between the two, leadership or the actual doing of the job. I do know that early on as an officer, I was probably much more focused on the doing of the job, the actual technical and tactical side of it.
Sure.
And then I recognized, and some of it, Brian, by mistakes, candidly. I mean, I suppose you guys want to come on here and hear all the good stuff I did, but believe me, there's enough dumb stuff that we could probably go all night with
Hey,
that.
we love the dumb stuff. So if you
Well, I
have,
got good, then boy, do you have the right guy. I mean, the funniest comment I ever hear people make, or it's not funny, it's actually sad, is the people who say they have no regrets in life. And I'm like, good God, that must be awesome. I got pages and pages of regrets and stupid things I've done. And the focus on the tactical side, I hope you recognize, is the doing of the job is a natural and normal thing because you're coming from the fire ranks when you promote, right? So you're going to default to and defer to what you really know. And what I knew best was the actual doing of the job, swinging axes and saws and nozzles and driving the rig and the whole 9 yards. I did learn the further I became an officer, that it was very important that I move to focusing more on the leadership side of things and actually enabling and facilitating the firefighters to do that stuff more than I was doing it. Now, I will say this. I did tell the guys, I said, if you don't let me touch the tools once in a while, I'm going to be a grouchy son of a gun. You are not going to like me if you don't let me at least touch them once in a while. I need to touch the saw. You get to do it most of the time, but you got to let me do it or I'm going to be a bear for you. And they were good about that. Let me tell you where I started to learn. I was in a different environment as a leader and as a company officer. The first assignment that I actually got a little engine company. I only had it for a month, and then one of the best truck companies in Seattle Fire reached out to me, and by best I mean one of the best in the nation. And their officer, who is one of my mentors, one of my friends, and just a great dude, John Mance, he was going to the training division. And John reached out to me and said, hey, these guys want to know if you'd come and be their lieutenant. And, you have to think about that because I'm following the guy who raised them. He's their dad and the legendary. Right. And listen, man, I mean, I had been on a truck for the first 5 years of my career. Then I had been driving an engine for like six years. So my truck skills were, they were rusty. But it was such a great opportunity. And a lot of these guys were friends of mine and that. So I went and was the acting lieutenant or the boot lieutenant on one of the best truck companies in Seattle Fire. I didn't get to keep that job. I only kept it for a year and had a blast there and learned a ton. But in Seattle Fire, when you're a probationary officer, you lose your first spot. They bid it out. You don't get to keep it, which is, it sucks, but it's also very fair because it's a choice spot. You got it without having to bid for it. They just put you there to be a probationary lieutenant. So it got bid out. And of course, 20 people applied for the job. And so I got booted. So an engine right down the road, really cool. An engine right down the road called me up and said, hey, we really like working with you. We would love for you to be our officer. The veteran driver is the one who recruited me, which is really nice. When that happens, it's really nice. And so I took that job and it was fun. I had a great time. It was in a cool little part of Seattle and just really cool part of it. Gang, it took about 3 months. And with the best intentions that I had as a guy trying to lead and a guy trying to train that fire company and everything else, I too was probably a little bit at that time more focused on the tactical side of it and the firefighting side of it. The veteran driver who was the first guy who recruited me and I were decent friends. We had a great time together until we started talking about politics.
Uh-oh.
And at some point, he and I realized that we were as far apart politically as you could be, or pretty far apart.
Sure.
I'm used to being a firefighter, guys, talking about whatever the heck I want to talk about, right? I mean, as a firefighter, I didn't have filters. I talked about what I wanted. And what I lost sight of was that I wasn't there to be a firefighter. I was there to lead that firehouse. And I was there to help those guys live their dreams. And I was there to build that team into a cohesive unit. And by the time it was done, I'm ashamed to say and embarrassed to say, I had divided the firehouse. And so much so that the other two guys, they would actually have to leave the kitchen when we started talking politics because we were screaming at each other, so so much for officer of the year or, leader of the year or whatever. You're not gonna find that behavior in the 9Ls or in
Right.
cornerstones of leadership or step up and lead. He and I came to a good understanding right before I left there, but it was never the same. And I feel like I took a great opportunity and destroyed it. But it did point out to me that I had to spend a great deal more time actually focusing on the leadership side of things than what I was doing. The tactical side and the training side and the drilling side came very easily to me. The building of the team and the getting the team to move forward as a cohesive unit and to help them live their dreams. That was then, Brian, where I started to focus quite a bit more effort. And if I had to answer, I don't know if it's a satisfying answer, but as I started to mature, I started to put a great deal of more time into the leadership side of it and the team building side than what I did on the front end. I never lost sight of my job was to be there to help train those men and women to a standard of tactical and strategic excellence. I never lost sight of that. What I did do is I started to have the other members of the team do quite a bit more of that. And I focused more on them being a good team and facilitating them becoming the next generation of leaders. And, quite candidly, I can honestly say, especially, coming out of, you can't see it, but coming out of fire station, where are we at here? Fire station 31. Can you see it?
I don't
know
see
how,
it.
there we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
yes,
Fire
I see it.
station 31. I'm so proud of that. I can tell you that at that fire station, one of our goals as a leadership team, the captains and the lieutenants, was firefighters to live their dreams at that place. And we had a ton of stuff working against us. If you've ever heard my class, we had a dump load of things working against us.
Oh yeah.
First and foremost being the worst building in the city and a
Right.
run load that was punishing. I mean, absolutely punishing run load. Gang, there wasn't a lieutenant's exam. There wasn't a captain's exam. There wasn't a battalion chief's exam for the 10 years I was there where we didn't have people competitive and towards the top of that list going on to be the next generation of leaders. We populated the specialty teams, the technical rescue team, the hazmat team, the decon teams, those types of things. The fire investigation unit. We sent multiple people to the fire investigation unit. It was all about finding out what fired you up, what turned you on, not keeping you sheltered around us, but expanding your skill set and dreaming big dreams to go out and do what you could do in Seattle Fire. And I'm telling you, gang, we sent people all over Seattle Fire
unleashing their potential. Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. I love hearing that, man. Joe Wiz coming at you. Driver Joe, he wants to know, Mike, how much did you put on your senior guys?
Oh, a ton, Joe. And man, I hope if you're in any position whatsoever, if you're a senior guy, my company officer friends in the room are not going to like this, and sorry about that. The most important and influential member of the firehouse, in my experience, has been the senior firefighters. In particular, if you have a veteran driver who's been there for a long time, man, that is the heart and soul and pulse of that rig. They know where the bodies are buried. They know the history. They know the clowns that have come through. And, officers come and go typically. We come and go. It's the veteran tenured firefighters that I think are the pulse. And I think you need to treat them accordingly. And I think you need to include them in the decision making. When I talk about a leadership team, that was important to me in my firehouse, that the captains and lieutenants were a firm leadership team. That also extended to the senior members who actually had a pulse. Those folks were part of the leadership team, and they were accorded great responsibility. Again, I don't know if this is overly popular because I think the officers feel like it's, they're the captain of their rig or the lieutenant of their rig. My feeling is that driver, that's your rig. That's your baby. You make that tool, whatever you need from me, you let me know.
Right.
That needs to be a fully functioning, spot on, crisp and clean tool that when it shows that, number one, we got to get there. So you got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to drive. You got to know where the hell we're going. But number two, when the tool shows up on the fire scene, I need that baby to be able to perform to a standard of excellence. It needs to be lubricated. It needs to be fueled up. It needs to be ready to go. I need the tools to be where they are. And I have an expectation, gang, of my senior firefighters. The expectation is that you're going to be de facto officers. That's what I want. I mean, it's not like you're You're not the officer, but you're de facto officers. I want you training the young people. I want you mentoring the young people. I want you extending our culture across that firehouse. I want you to be a voice when I'm not there. And not for nothing, gang. I was on a truck. It doesn't matter that I was on a truck, but the truck splits a lot more. I had to have the people on my rigs know what the hell they're doing because we were going to split often. And I'm not going to be with you. And I'm going to send you up to a roof. I'm not going to pick and choose which job I give you. I'm going to send you to the job that most needs your time and energy. And I need you to be able to do that job. I don't want to have to think about you up on the roof. I want you to be trained to such a standard of excellence that you get up there and you kick butt and take names. And then we come together at the end and we celebrate, slap hands, and talk about all the amazing stuff we did. That doesn't happen with being under the officer's thumb and do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. I hate to say it. You guys will probably be disappointed. I don't feel like the guys needed me after a while. I could be gone from the firehouse and the firehouse ran like a top. I could be gone from the firehouse and the next man on my rig stepped up and acted. I never got any significant blowback because somebody didn't know what they were doing or they went to a fire. Those guys could step up because they were all company officer level firefighters. To me, that's what I'm after. And just one last thing, Joe, for your senior firefighters. I'm actually working on it right now. I'm slow because I got too many things to do. I'm working on an article on SALT and the salty veteran. And the whole premise of the article is based around a couple Bible studies that I've been privileged to be involved in. And SALT has some awesome characteristics. When you look at salt and the history of salt, it's been used for wealth, it's been used for medicine, used for antiseptic, used for seasoning, used as a preservative. It's a wonderful analogy for the salty veteran leader, the salty veteran firefighter. If you are salted in the appropriate way, the appropriate amount, you become invaluable. Your wealth is, you can't put a price on it. If you're too salty, you're just going to kill it, because nobody's going to be able to approach you because you're such a jerk, or you're so unapproachable, or the worst thing that I've ever heard from guys. And those of you guys that did it, I just want you to know you're not a salty vet. You're a punk. Have new guys show up and say, don't even talk to me for a year. Don't even talk to me. Bloody hell. It's like you do recognize that guy's going to be at your side and may save your life later on at a fire tonight. And you ought to be investing in that dude right from the get-go, man.
No doubt, brother. No doubt.
If you are so salty that people can't be around you, you're just useless. You're no good. You're gonna just like too much salt on anything. It's blah. If you don't have enough salt, if you're a wimp, if you're a coward, if you're afraid to make a mistake, then you don't have enough salt. You're like every meal all of us ever had that didn't have enough salt on it or didn't have enough seasoning. You're bland and you're useless and nobody wants to be around you. You're no use. And gang, everywhere in between, the analogy is glorious to being the type of salty veteran that actually impacts the firehouse and impacts the lives of careers. I've got a handful of them, gang, that without those individuals, I'd be a very different firefighter, a very different leader today. And I'm grateful for them every day. Let me tell you something. You talk about real value, real accomplishment. Those individuals invested in me in a way that you can't pay for. And they built into me some beliefs and some philosophies and some skill sets that I carry with me to this day. And I'm trying really hard to share for other generations to get the benefit of what I got. Joe, Joe, Brian, I hope both of those answered some of what you were after.
Dude, that's killer. So Derek summed it up. He said, time stamp the whole salt talk. This is great. And 100%, man. I can't wait to read the article. How long till it comes out?
Paul Combs and I are going to try to collaborate on how he's doing those collaborations.
Absolutely.
We're going to try to collaborate on an article and him doing an illustration centered around
captured
that type of thing. Yeah.
Just beautiful.
As you have been aware, because we've crossed paths, just my bandwidth and busyness level over the last couple of months has been too much. So, but I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
And FDIC area that the whole April is just madness.
Yeah.
And throw in COBC right after it. It's just madness.
Yeah.
Madness.
Good stuff, but just bandwidth is. Again, as you're probably starting to figure out, I'm not all that bright to begin with, so I need time to actually be thoughtful.
Well, you're just a knuckle dragging truckie. That's
Yeah, exactly. Knucklehead. Yeah.
His favorite color is banana. All right. Sorry. I'm just kidding.
No, it's good. That's good.
Luke Stevenson wants to know, and I love this question. It really is. It springboards off what you were talking about. Talking about speaking politics, driving a wedge into your crew. How do you draw the line between being your authentic and open self, but also having that separation, which is often needed?
That's great. Yeah, no, good question. You know, you know how I started this thing, right? I started it with what our calling is,
Yes.
and why are you there? If you just keep going back to why am I at this place and this place and time? And my guess would be most of you, when you pinned the badge on your chest, the last thing you were thinking about was showing up to the firehouse and dividing it over some stupid political conversation that you have zero impact on. Just so you know. I mean, I don't mean to burst any of your bubbles out there with your political commentary, because politics are important, and the questions of the day and the things that we're all grappling with. I mean, if we don't make some headway on those issues, our country's in trouble. So I'm not discounting how important political conversations are. But my simple volley back across the net to you is, what are you going to do about it at the firehouse? What kind of progress are you going to make at the firehouse, opening up all these cans of worms and trying to have a conversation in a professional environment where what you're really supposed to be about is getting closer to your fellow brothers and sisters, training together, living together, taking care of each other, and actually performing and doing tasks that the citizens have either tasked you to do, paid you to do, and are expecting you to do. Here is probably, I hope this resonates. Here's what I have never heard one time, for those of you who are the big political or social commentators at the firehouse. I've never heard this one time in 33 years of basically being in firehouses. Never once have I heard a political or a social conversation go on in a firehouse. Usually heated, right? Usually emotion attached to them.
True.
Never once have I seen one of those go on and a firefighter on the other side of it go, "Stop, wait. You're right. I changed my mind. You're right. Donald Trump is the best president in the history of America," or "Joe Biden is going to save it." I've never heard it. And you know why? The reason why is, gang, because it's like social media. It's an inappropriate and it is not a beneficial place to be able to articulate things in the way you need to articulate difficult and nuanced arguments. It is not the place for it. And you always are going to have the snipes coming in from the side with whatever thoughtful stuff you are talking about. The other folks in the firehouse are going to be throwing in stuff and dropping
darts.
grenades.
Here come the darts.
Yeah. Those are conversations that are meant for quiet, thoughtful, you listen, I talk, you listen, nuanced type of approach, type of stuff. And the firehouse is not the place for that. And it's why the super majority of your political and your conversations like that do not end the way you expected them to go. You're at the firehouse for a reason. That ain't it. And there can be those types of smaller conversations going on. And the closer you get with some of your crew, I mean, me and my crew in the rig, we could talk about damn near anything. When it was me and my guys, I won't even share with you the stuff that we talked about.
Sure.
But we forged that. We built that over time,
right.
And we knew each other well enough that there was never a problem in the cab. Out amongst the masses and amongst the folks who have differing opinions, different things like that, I think you just need to be smart. You need to remember why you're there. Just go back to, we talk about in This House Rocks, the circle of influence, circle of concern. We talk about that circle of concern, which is, politics is in there for me. I'm concerned about it.
Absolutely.
I have really strong opinions about most of it, right?
Right.
But when I'm in the professional environment and I start to think about circle of influence, which is, I got, practically speaking, at the firehouse, you got about 10 to 12 hours of time that kind of is your own. And then the other half of the shift or whatever it is ends up kind of being taken up. But you go about 10 to 12 hours-ish, depending on the day, that you can kind of do stuff and whatever. If you're spending that time in your bullseye, in your circle of influence, where if I spend 2 hours in the afternoon after lunch, what am I going to spend it on? If I spend it on politics and a conversation around the beanery table, just recognize you've wasted your day. You've wasted that 2 hours, because at the end of that conversation, you will not have moved the needle one bit. Just recognize the game you're playing. You won't have changed what we're doing at the border. You won't have changed who the president's going to be. You will not have changed what's happening with China, as compelling as your arguments are. Are you with me?
Absolutely. I love
If
it.
I go to my circle of influence and I say, okay, for this 2 hours, I'm going to do something that's going to move the needle. Now a whole bunch of options pop up, and those can be a bunch of things. We're going to make the firehouse look better. Firehouse, when I got there this morning, I thought it looked kind of crappy. We're gonna take one part of the firehouse and we're gonna make it look better. Gang, that goes to house pride. That goes to livability. We're gonna go out, and they had a fire last night, and we're gonna get in this damn rig and get out of the firehouse. We're gonna go look at that fire. We're gonna recreate that fire. We're gonna talk about what they did. We're gonna look at things that could have gone wrong. We're gonna talk about what we would do. Gang, at the end of the 2 hours, you haven't changed everything strategically and tactically, but the tools have gotten sharper. I guarantee you're going to have fun doing it. You're going to learn from your fellow brothers and sisters some things that you didn't know about their skill set, and maybe some things they can contribute. Like, man, did you notice that? Did you see that void right up there? What are you talking about? Man, that is an old oven void. There used to be a fan there, and now it's walled over, but there's a void there. Damn, man, just simple things over and over and over again, and now the tools are sharper. Gang, it may just be you just came out of lunch. I give the guys an hour to just go do what they want to do. And I go talk to one of my members that looks like they've been beaten to death. And they're hangdog and they're dragging, and they're usually really upbeat and positive. And it may very well be that they need an hour of the captain's time just to vent their spleen, unleash their soul. And maybe there's some things that I can help them with that'll keep us from having more problems down the road. That's in my circle of influence. That's in my ability to optimize my time. Typically, you're not gonna have those types of results if what you're talking about is whether the election was rigged or not.
No, dude, brother, I love. Of course, Covey is one of his 7 Habits book is one of the things that changed my life when I read it when I was 27 years old, and I always talk about it. But the circle of influence, circle of concern. I don't think there is a single tool that you could lock into your brain than understanding that concept that can make you a more effective person in the fire service.
Dude, I agree 100%. And just for a little bit of a boost for you, I was just at command officer boot camp, and one of the guys came up after class and was talking to me down by the water, unloading some personal stuff.
Sure.
And he said to me, and I thought you would like to hear this. You mentioned the Covey reminded me of it. He said, yeah, I got Corley's book, 9 L's of Leadership. And he said, literally in the first chapter, I had 2 pages of notes to share with the guys on insights, and I think you call them timestamps or whatever.
Yes.
I had 2 pages of notes to share with the guys, and that was just the first chapter. And I said, well, when I see Corley, I'm going to tell him that, because that right there is exactly why he sat down and wrote that book, just for that moment. So,
hey, thank you for sharing that. No, I love that. I love hearing that, and I don't feel deserving of it, but and I know you know what I'm saying. But thank you. Absolutely. Go into it. I got more questions coming at you. Greg White wants, and thank you for the last question, Luke. It was a very insightful question. So thank you, Luke Stevenson. Greg White wants to know, Cap, what's your expectations or standards for the rookies coming to your shift?
If I had to sum it up in one phrase, that's a longer question.
Sure.
But I believe most of the rookies that came through, the one thing that I always told them was, you have to come here and earn your spot. And unless the rookie was specifically assigned to me, they're on the other platoon. It was hard for me to get significant time with them. But I had a leadership team. Their job was to work with their rookie and that type of thing. But I did try to spend time with every one of the rookies. And my main job on the front end was to make sure that they came into the firehouse and they felt like they were welcome to the firehouse. And then I told them, you're here to earn your spot, because that's what I'm doing. I'm the station captain and I'm earning my spot. There's guys that have been here a lot longer than me when I showed up. And every single day you come here, you're trying to be worthy of a spot on this great team. And, use what you bring to us. Use what you bring to make us better. You all bring different stuff. You bring different skills and different experiences. My expectation of the rookies on the front end, I want you to be who you are, but I want you to understand that you are new to this job. And if there's something that needs doing, you're in the middle of it. That's what I want to see. I want to see a motor. I don't want to see I don't want to see the officers having to come tell you to get up and do something, get up and answer the door, empty the trash, those types of things. I want to see a certain type of motor. And it's not just dumping all the crap work on
Yes.
the recruit. It really isn't. And we didn't spend a whole lot of time in things like pranking the recruits or that type of stuff. We had a little bit of that stuff that went on just to have fun. But my expectation was if something was going on, you were in the middle of it. And I learned this as a recruit. Something as simple as the watch book, filling out our watch book, putting in runs and whatever else. I remember the lieutenant saying, I don't care if you're on watch or not. If there is a run or if there's something going on and something's going in that book, I want you to be here to put it in that book. And he wasn't being a jerk to me. He said after that, he said, here's the thing. You learn by doing.
Yes.
You learn a little bit by watching. You learn a little bit by listening. You learn by doing. And this watch book is a legal record. It needs to be accurate. I want you to know how to do this watch book. And we extended that from the mundane skill of the watch book to everything that we did on the truck or on the fireground. It was a learn by doing approach. And those sets and reps end up becoming essential if you ever want to get good at anything. I mean, the critical part about it, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we talk about the fireground. What sets and reps do for you is they allow you to become automatic in things. When you become automatic in things, it allows you spots in your brain and bandwidth to now expand and learn new things. But you have to get good at the basics first. You have to be awesome at that before the new stuff that you learn starts to have space to be able to get awesome at that. And if you're on that path all the time, if you're we call it a flawless execution of the basics in this house rocks. Trained to a standard of a flawless execution of basic skills.
I've always loved that. Always loved that. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, dude, and it's so important because everybody can do it. There's folks in the chat room right now that are probably going, well, this sounds like a great thing, but I'm not the captain. I'm not the leader. I'm not the boss. Neither was I most of the time. Neither was I, guys. Nobody can stop you no matter how crap a leader you got. And I know some of you have absolute dyed-in-the-wool dog turds for leaders, and I'm sorry. I really am. But I've worked for those guys. I've worked for the guys that are more interested in their real estate business or, in the office all day studying for their next promotion instead of doing the damn job that they promoted to when they came with us. I have worked for those guys. It never stopped me from training on basic skills. Who can stop you from throwing your mask? Who can stop you from taking the ladder off the rig and throwing the ladder? Who can stop you from pulling the rig out of the app bay and putting that thing in pump and, throwing hose down and doing reverse pump hookups and all the other kind of cool stuff? Nobody can stop you from drilling in the core basic skills, and every single thing that you do of an advanced nature, it has to be built upon a foundation of the basic skills, or the advanced stuff doesn't work. Doesn't work the other way. You don't get good at the advanced skills. You don't get good at tying a rope up on an extended ladder and whatever else, and you don't know how to put the ladder up in the first place. Doesn't work.
Right on.
So,
Preach, man.
Preach. Core basic skills. And the awesome thing is it's so much fun. It's so much fun to be good at it. Man, there's not when you talk about our calling, doing our job well is the single biggest kick-ass, most fun thing in the world, especially when it's real. I mean, when it's absolutely real and people are counting on it and lives matter and folks are going to die if you don't do the right stuff, to actually be good at this thing and do it in the right way, there is no more fulfilling, awesome experience that you will ever experience. The thing I missed singularly that surprised me the most that I miss from my time in the fire service, I miss coming home in the rig after a good job where we did a good job. The collegiality, the camaraderie, the brother sisterhood that you feel in that cab, the stuff that we talk about, what we laugh about, that vibe in the cab coming off of an awesome job where we did a great job, baby, that is like pure straight on mainline heroin, crack, whatever your drug of choice is, whatever you guys do in your off time, it's that. And it's amplified 100-fold. I miss that as much as I miss anything, Corley, and there's no substitute for it out here in the real world. There's a lot of cool, fun things, a lot. That is its own special, unique thing. And it's because you committed to a difficult calling that matters. You committed to something that not everybody can do. And you committed to something that not everybody who accepts our badge is willing to do to the standard that you just provided. It's phenomenal, man. It's just awesome.
Hold on. I got to write down these timestamps. Good. I'm running out of paper. I'm running out of ink. But they are good, brother. No, I love that. When people are saying Fireman 718 said timestamp, it is absolutely a timestamp. I was trying to, I had something I wanted to throw at you. Okay, going back to I forgot because I talked about timestamps, and my brain does that. It goes in tangent. Something that is absolutely one of your favorite topics to talk about, and that is decision making. The need to be good at quick decisions. So that's a soft toss, an open toss. Get your questions in as he talks about decision making, but start with decision making and the need to be good at it.
I think what we do is so difficult and so compelling and so complex that it requires you, I think, to put in the time to be good at it in a different way than what a lot of other jobs do. Because and I know some of my friends who teach will disagree with me, and it's a respectful disagreement. There just is no linear approach to fighting fires. There's no for the first in company officer, when you don't have very much information and you're just trying to sort it out and you're trying to get your initial tactics done. There's no linear path or checklist typically to follow. You certainly can set up some systems for yourself, but the fire doesn't know your system. The fire doesn't know your checklist, and the fire is going to do, the emergency scene is going to do what it's going to do. It requires of you a commitment to getting good at decision-making at fires. And it's going to be a lifetime commitment. It's going to be one that may frustrate you because you're never going to arrive there. I want to encourage you to make a commitment right now to put time, effort, and energy to being a good decision maker at fires. And to do that, you're going to have to go to fires. You're going to have to read about fires. You're going to have to watch fires. You're going to have to talk to other firefighters about fires. You're going to have to put in time, effort, and energy to fill the gaps in between your own fires, because you will never go to enough. And I know a lot of folks are talking about, what fire breathing dogs they are, and they go to this. And man, I never, even at our busiest time when we had arsonists going on, I never felt like I got enough fires to feel like I had enough, or that I had enough sets and reps, or, that I'd learned enough. You got to fill those gaps with other people's experiences and with training, and with sizing up and setting up fires, and where are we going to go first, and how are we going to go, and are we going to go? There's some fires you got no business going into. I recognize that's not popular right now out on the national circuit, and I'm sorry that that's the way it is. But guys, I'm going to tell you what I think is true, and I'll tell you why I believe there's some fires you don't go into. It's very simple. I'm an adult. That's why. I'm not a child. I'm not a kid. I'm not a rah tattoo whatever my slogan of the day is on my shoulder, and get whatever bumper sticker I got at the fire conference and put it on my forehead and say, let's go into everything. There are some fires that do not deserve an ounce of risk from firefighters. And if you haven't been to one of those yet, it just means you haven't gone to many fires. That's what that means. You will go to fires where everything is lost before you got there. And the idea that you're going to submit firefighters to risk on something that's already lost mystifies me. And it'll be I can tell you this, gang. If you don't listen to anything else, if you need a timestamp that I hope you'll actually timestamp, you need to be good at decision-making at fires for one simple reason, and that is you are going to live with the consequences of your decisions at fires for the rest of your life. And for those of you that are so afraid of making a mistake or risking anything, or a firefighter's going to get hurt, you're in a corner over by the rig in a puddle of your own piss because you're afraid something's going to go wrong. They call that cowardice, and they call it cowardice for a reason, because you were tasked to do a job, and you need to do that job to the best of your ability. And the cowards on our job are going to be responsible for citizens not surviving that could have survived. That's the reality. The flip side of that is those of you that are, you're so aggressive that you've decided it's a one-way ride, and you're going to be a kamikaze pilot, and you're just going to go in and hope it works the best. God help you, man. I don't know who's training you or who's teaching you or where you got that from, but I can tell you the good tenured, salty mentors that mentored me, they never talked about it being a one-way ride. They never talked about risking everything every single time you go and go into a fire. Gang, the real professionals, the real folks that take our calling and understand our calling, understand that there is a modulating risk that occurs when we go to fires, any emergency. There's a modulating risk. And for you truckies, modulating means it changes. All right. I know that's a big word. I apologize, Gang, the risk varies based upon what it is that we're trying to save. Where are we trying to get to? Where are our survivable spaces or our savable spaces or searchable spaces or our tenable spaces or whatever word you use to describe people could be there.
Right.
Where are you going to take your initial limited resources? And for most of you, it's a first-in company with 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. And in everything that's going on, what gets your first attention? And I call my class the art of go, no, go. I think some people dishonestly have misconstrued that to say, oh, well, he's trying to keep you out of fires. Vafangul. You either didn't come to the class or you're not paying attention.
Right.
That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about is what is worth us inserting ourselves to actually save something. And more importantly than the actual go, no go response, because most fires are goes in some form or fashion. Most fires are interior attacks, at least in my experience. Certainly not all of them, but most of them have a component that we could get to. More important is if we're going to go, where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? What gets our first attention? Some folks have told me, well, I took your go, no go class and that was all fine, but we're going to search all the spaces. So, man, I agree. Everything gets searched. Can you get there all at once at the same time? What's the answer, gang? What's the answer in the chat room?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, can you be at all survivable spaces at one time? Okay, so if you admit that, now we can actually get down to being thoughtful decision makers. What gets my first attention and what gives the people that potentially could be inside this structure the very best chance of surviving? There are some spaces, at least from the outside, good chance they're not survivable. Gang, are we gonna go knock down that fire and check them out? You bet. We don't know what closed doors we've got. We don't know what bathrooms we have or whatever else. But good Lord, there is a whole bunch of spaces that if we don't get to and we don't get to quick, anybody who was in there is not going to have a chance. That's where the decision-making process starts to be a lot of fun. And the cool thing is you can do it, man. You can get good at it. My premise in training on decision-making with fires is pretty simple. I'm trying to get a baseline, a slide tray, either a hard drive or a mental slide tray of images of fires that I've been to, experiences I've had. And I want to be able to access that in the middle of the night when my adrenaline's pumping and, rigs are coming in and I got to talk on the radio and all this stuff. The only way you expand that slide tray or that hard drive is by putting pictures in there, images in there, experiences in there, and you don't get them all with just the fires you go to. You got to really get out there and listen to fires and listen to experiences and do line of duty death stuff, put on YouTube videos and start to see things that maybe you haven't experienced them, but you've experienced them through other people's, and that can help inform that slide tray. One other thing I did with my guys, actually, one of the guys told me he had tried to become a lieutenant for a while. And he told me that if we hadn't have done this, he would have never become a lieutenant because he just struggled so much with actually being able to articulate what was going on. We just went out on the rig and I put him in the officer's chair and we just drove around the district and, get into where there were buildings, just say, we're going to go down the block, 2 blocks. We're going to take a right. The 4th building on the left has heavy fire in the 1st floor. And then we did a radio size up. And so you didn't even know what the building was going to be, and it could have been any type of building. It could have been a little business. It could have been a house, apartment building, heavy fire on floor 1. After we did about 100 of those, all of a sudden he got a little vibe going. He got a system going. He started to get past the tongue-tied thing that a lot of guys feel. He relaxed because he had 100 reps under his belt. Dude was a accomplished lieutenant for the remainder of my time in Seattle Fire. And he will point to some of those drills that we did that got him past being tongue-tied. That's the decision-making process. And you know what? Know this, gang. I could talk to you all day about trying to get good at decision-making. I can tell you where the bill is going to come due. It's going to come due in the middle of the night when it may not seem like it now, but you're going to be the senior person on the rig. And you're going to be in the front yard and there's going to be 3 other firefighters or whatever you got looking up at you. And they're going to be wanting you to make decisions and somebody's going to live or die based upon the decisions that you make. On that moment, you are going to want to have put every bit of time, effort, and energy you can put into being an accomplished decision maker at fires. And there is nothing more gratifying and nothing more enjoyable than making the right decisions when seconds count.
Dude, I love that. I absolutely. I can tell when I'm just listening to you instead of writing down the timestamps. I can tell. Blake Schnarin wants to know your opinion, Captain. What's more important, staying in the back seat and perfecting the firefighter position and taking it all in, or ranking up to have a better chance at changing the culture of your department? That's a good question. That's a tough one.
Wow, God, you guys are sharp, man. Damn. Can we just get back to what's cooler, truck work or engine work? I mean,
Yes.
damn. No, man, what a great question. So just so you know, this is opinion. That's all it is. And so, it's just my opinion. And I also recognize that there are different configurations of departments, and the variables could change based upon how young or old your department is. But I want you to know this is just my opinion. You asked for it, so I'll tell you what I think.
I love it.
I didn't even think about promoting to lieutenant until I had 10 years on the job. So I think you ought to have time on the job. I think you ought to have sets and reps on the job. In my organization, I was in a bigger job, so you could do different things. I wanted to be on an engine. I wanted to spend time on an engine. I actually left the truck to go to a small residential engine to get some engine work, and because I wanted to learn how to drive and pump the engine because I didn't know how to do it. And it was really hard to do it in the double house because we were training all the time, and it was just really hard. So I actually literally took a small residential engine job. The driver job came open like 3 months after I got there. The driver job came open. I ended up being the driver after 3 months. I mean, you talk about a learning curve that was like that. It was ridiculous. But I wanted that skill set. Before I actually led the rig, I actually wanted to do the work of the rig and on the back step, on the turntable, on the tailboard. I wanted to do that stuff, and I benefited greatly from it. And I know that the drive to promote can be driven by a lot of different things. Some of you younger departments, it's like you either promote or you're going to be working for some numbnuts who's going to be horrible. I totally get that. I can only encourage you the quality of your ability to lead the rig. A chunk of it is going to be predicated on the experience you bring to the rig, the strategic and tactical experience you bring to the rig. And you also learn some stuff, leadership lies along the way by working for other folks. Some of it is amazing. You learn what to be and how to be and what works and what resonates. Some of it's horrifying, and you learn what not to do. And, you learn the example not to emulate. Those are all great lessons. I guess it is in a short answer for a short program like this, I would just encourage you to put in sufficient time to get good at the job and be happy while you're there. Enjoy the hell out of being a firefighter, man. Enjoy being on the engine. Enjoy being on the truck. I think one of the things that happens, and I think it's just a theory of mine. I think it's accurate, but it's a theory. A lot of people promote because they're not happy doing what they're doing. So, they're not happy as a firefighter. So okay, well, if I'm the boss, if I'm in charge, then things will be good. And I'll run this thing the way I want to run it. And then you become an officer and you realize that's bloody hell hard. Being a lieutenant's hard, being a captain's hard, being a chief's hard, and you're not happy there. So it's like, okay, well, I wasn't happy as a lieutenant. I'll go be a captain. And then I won't have to answer to the dumb captain. I can run this firehouse. Well, then you become a captain and you realize, good God, man, boy, oh boy. You don't get to touch the tools You don't get to touch the tools very much anymore. You got to deal with a battalion chief. You got to deal with discipline. So I'll be a battalion chief, And every step of the way, you weren't happy at what you were doing, and you don't realize it's not the position, it's you. I had a blast as a firefighter, man. I mean, I had a blast being on the engine. I never felt like I was as good at it as some of you, but I even enjoyed driving the rig. I had to work really hard, I felt, to get competent at driving the engine because it wasn't necessarily a natural skill set to me, and I wanted to be good at it. So I had to bust my butt to get good at it. But I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I learned what the officer needed from from driving the rig. Don't think that didn't help me when I became a lieutenant or captain.
Right.
And me being able to tell my driver what I needed from them and how to be successful and something. I mean, something as simple as when we pulled up to a fire in Seattle, because we had all these rigs showing up, they always had a staging area. And so we would pull up on these big fires and all the rigs would get caught in this scrum in the staging area. And I told my buddy Rick, who was, driving me and pulling us into the staging area, like, whoa, don't get me in that mess. At least not right away. We'll get there. Get me around the thing. I want to drive around before we get caught in the scrum, and I want to see what's going on, the block around. I want to see what's happening. Maybe, just maybe, they might need us on the other side of this building. It happened way more than once,
Right.
where they needed a second ladder, and instead of us getting pinned in with the scrum where we couldn't move, we were around the side, and they saw where we were, and they said, ladder 5, could you put up a second stick on the building?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to work. We'll go to work.
We'll go up there and we'll cut a hole for you too, instead of sitting at the staging area and circling the command post trying to get a job. Those types of things were things I learned by being in the trenches and driving and doing all the other stuff. I mean, I know that's probably an incomplete answer. I apologize. It's not more complete, but that's the way I feel. I feel like you need to put time on the job and enjoy the job where you are. Get good at it, and that sets the foundation for being, well, you can be a Brian LaFleur type of company officer that actually influences a recruit to become the chief of the department, for crying out loud,
Right. No, and Luke Stevenson summarized it. He said, timestamp. If you keep promoting because you don't like your position, it's not the position, it's you.
Yeah, you're right, Luke. You should be on here being the guest, man. That's way better than I said it.
He summarized it very well. Yes, I love it. He said, Blake Schneider said, well said, Cap. I appreciate the nuggets. Definitely opening my eyes and head with those words. I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and something that's very near and dear to your heart, because I do not believe in work-life balance. I don't think that's a thing. That's a big buzzword in corporate worlds, in business, in the real world, like we like to call it, and people try to translate that to the fire. There's no such thing as work-life balance. Again, my opinion. And you have a topic on here we want to talk about, and that's keeping the first family first.
Yeah.
So talk to me about it.
Well, some of you know that a long time ago, Ann and I wrote a book on this, Challenges of the Firefighter Marriage. And the whole premise of the book, I probably should have had a copy here. I'm a horrible salesman.
Mine's in my office at the house at the
station.
I
got a box of them upstairs, but I'm down here.
Fair enough.
On the cover of the book, if you get the book, I want you to know what our attempt was to do that, and it's what we're trying to do to this day. The book is essentially divided up into chapters, and it's Ann speaking from the perspective of the firefighter, and me from the spouse, and me coming back and speaking from the perspective of the firefighter on the various challenges that you're going to face to try to have a blast in the fire service, but to also give your family and take care of the things that matter most. That's the whole premise. The cover of the book, you actually see a picture of us on our knees getting married, and on our knees before God, before a God that I believe in as much as I'm talking to you right now and you're real. That's how strongly Ann and I believe that we were committing to God. And surrounding that picture of us on our knees, agreeing to walk with each other and stand with each other and have each other's back, are all these pictures of the fire service. And they represent many of the different things that the fire service brings into your world that's going to maybe cause some trouble. And none of them are bad. There are fires, which are awesome. They're the emergency work, which is why we live. There are crews. The crews, nothing wrong with that, man. Some of the best friends I have. But the crews can become so important that your home stops being important. Kids, kids can be so important that you stop caring about each other. There's this pictures all around this young 20-year-old couple that in the heart of hearts, we decided that we were going to love each other with our lives, and we were going to write an epic love story that continues 38 years, going on 39 years today. To do that, you have to be able to, we call it, there's lots of ways to describe it, man. People are describing it in a lot of ways. I'm down with whatever works for you. First family first.
Yes.
And Ann is the first priority in everything that I do. She's the compass, my compass point. None of you likely are going to be around 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now. Ann's gonna. Seattle Fire is done for me. My coat's on the hook, gang. That, 29 plus years there, that chapter's written, that story's written. Seattle Fire has well and good moved on from me, baby. It's next man up and next person on the rig, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Tones are dropping, and they're still rolling.
And you know what? It's the way it should be. And I get a great deal of gratitude from firefighters that I work with for things I've done and all that. But I'm telling you, that department has moved on, baby. What a terrible thing if on the day that I retired, and it was an emotional moment, guys. I put my coat on the hook. It was an emotional moment. It was 33 years of basically being in firehouses and getting on fire trucks and going to fires. And I knew when I hung that coat on the hook that was very likely the last operational day moment that I was going to spend as a firefighter. What a horrible, horrible day as I'm heading out the door, and I know that my fire company, everything is going to move on without me. The department's going to move on without me. If I had gone home to an empty house, if I had gone home to a broken relationship, if I had gone home to a disaster of a family, because I had given my professional calling everything and I had slighted them. I want you to know, in all truth and authenticity, I did not do that. And I did not slight my family. I did not give my calling everything. I did not sacrifice my wife, and I did not sacrifice my kids or my family to do everything for the fire service. Now, that being said, I had a blast, and I gave it a good go, because listen, you can't make anything an idol. You can't hold everything, have something be an idol that you worship other than God or whatever it is that you guys do in your sacred lives. Ann's not an idol. My marriage isn't an idol. My kids aren't an idol. The fire service isn't an idol. They all get some of my energy and my attention. They all get some of my focus. And I can tell you, gang, don't be afraid of it. That focus is going to shift from time to time. And sometimes the fire service is going to get a little bit more. Sometimes your family's going to get a little bit more. It depends upon the season that you're in. It's being aware of the fact of when you've gone too far and when one thing is getting too much. If your family's your idol and you are so focused to your private life and your family, there's probably a very good chance that you're not earning the badge and you're not giving your fire department what it deserves. You're not training enough. You're not holding up the standard that you agreed to when you pinned your badge on the chest. If you're giving the fire department too much, it's going to be like what's happening for many of you right now. I know, because I talk to couples all over the country. Your ships that pass in the night, you're never there. You're not there for special days. You're not there in the moments when your spouse needs you. You forget about being able to be at your kids' events or those types of things. And I can tell you there is a direct and devastating impact to giving so much to the fire service that your family is second. Let's with the person that you love more than anybody in the world, which ought to be your spouse, have the conversation about what gets our best time. And then if you're planning your calendar, if you're actually having open conversations about this is too much, this is too little, we want you to be here, we need you to be here, this is a priority, you can start to navigate that push and that pull in a way that makes sense for how your family works and how your family runs. I mean, you do at some point, and I'm not your father, so I'm not your parent.
Right.
You do have to recognize that you cannot have everything. Again, remember I told you I'm an adult. I'm not a child. I don't think like a child. I'm a child at heart.
I was going to say.
The guitar's behind me. However, I'm an adult. I don't think like a kid.
Right.
You can't have it all. You just can't. You have 24 hours in a day. You have X amount of energy. You have X amount of resources and money. You typically get to spend that stuff one time. I want to encourage you to think about and really look at your calendar and look at whether the priorities that you've established as a married couple, as a family, and then as a professional, if you're actually spending your time, your talent, your energy, and your resources on your actual goals, or if you're being pulled in directions that are not what you want it to be. There are costs. This is probably not going to be a popular part of the broadcast, and I apologize that it may not be, but you asked me to talk to you straight, and I always try to talk authentically.
I have it no other way, brother.
I have lots of friends that are not my friends anymore because I couldn't give them the time that they wanted. I have lots of professional accomplishments that I could have accomplished because I didn't have the time to put to those professional accomplishments, and something had to win and something had to lose. Hear me, gang. With the 5 hours that you spend after you're done with this radio show today, something with your time is going to win. You're going to choose to do something with that time, and something's going to lose. If you're going to every fire training conference that pops up, I can tell you what's losing. It's time with your spouse, time with your parents, time at your church, time with your kids. That's the stuff that's losing. If it's overbalanced because it's so exciting to be at a fire conference, or it's so exciting that somebody asked you to teach at a conference, Just recognize the game you're playing. You've put it all here. Hopefully that'll be there for you when this over here wants nothing more to do with you, because that's the train that you're following. I uh, I was not involved in most of the cool kid clubs in Seattle Fire. I didn't have time for them. You know, I mean, and all, nothing. They're all good. I was not involved with pipes and drums because I didn't have time to practice. I didn't have time to go do it. I was not involved with the baseball team, you know, the fire department baseball team or whatever. I didn't have time to go do it because I was coaching my own kid's team. I was one of the coaches. I didn't want everybody else just to coach my kid. I wanted to spend time on the sideline, you know, working with my kid or coaching my kid or being there. Gang, I was not the guy after work that went and had breakfast and had Bloody Marys or whatever. It's like I would do it once in a while. We'd go play games or something, you know. Right. But I just spent 24 hours with you. I'm going home to my family. They haven't seen me for 24 hours or 48 hours. I'm going home to my family. And it cost me, gang. It cost me personally. It cost me professionally. It cost me with relationships because people wanted more of my time. I'll tell you what it didn't cost me. I do not look back one little bit in raising my children, or now they're grown, so they're gone, they're doing their stuff. I do not look back with any sense whatsoever of loss for all the time that I spent with them, the time we took together, the days that I got off work and we held them out of school. That our kids were voted most likely to miss school because I would get home from work after a 24-hour shift and the sun was finally shining in Seattle. We would pull them out of school and we'd go to the zoo. Or we'd go to the aquarium and nobody was there because it was a school day. Yeah. I don't regret an ounce of that, gang, because every single bit of that is gone. They're gone. They're not little anymore. I don't get to play with them in the dirt anymore. I would just encourage you to really, with your spouse, have a real thoughtful conversation about what comes first, what your priorities are. And just to keep it short, there's two ways you can determine what your actual priorities are. At least two primary ways.
I love it.
What I would encourage you to do is sit down with your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or, you know, some of you are doing like triumvirate type things, you know, your two boyfriends or your two girlfriends, you know, rock on. Good luck with that. Sit down with whoever the person is that you have decided to live life with and just have an open conversation about what you're really about. What do you want to be true about the love story you're writing, about what you're doing professionally, you know, your job and their job, or whatever, what you want to be true about the kids and what you want to be true about your friends and family. What do you want that to look like? Where do you drive a stake in the ground? Right. Now that you've identified those priorities, you know, and a lot of you will say something like, well, you know, it's going to be faith and it's going to be family and it's going to be, you know, friends and it's going to be fire or profession or whatever. So that's a great template. Now I just encourage you to go do two simple things. Just go pull out your calendar and pull out your checkbook for the last 3 months. And if you look at where you spent your time the last 3 months and where you spent your money, your treasure, you will have a very good snapshot of what your actual priorities are, as opposed to maybe what you wrote down as the bumper sticker that you heard at the fire conference about faith and everything else. And that's fine, man. Don't we want to know that? You know, I don't want to live in a state of self-deception.
Right.
I want to know exactly what it is that I'm doing with my life, because it goes by really fast and you don't get to relive it. You only get to do it once. I told the people in my mentoring group, in my accountability group, what I told the people in my accountability group, the people that I gave access to tell me I was acting like a jerk, or I wasn't being a good leader, or I wasn't training the guys enough, or I was training them too much, whatever. My accountability group that had 100% permission for me to take off all the captain bars, all the stuff that doesn't matter, and now they're just talking to Mike. I said to them one simple thing: love me enough to not let me fail. You have to love me enough to tell me the hard stuff and tell me I'm being a punk, tell me I'm compromising my relationship, tell me I'm being a jerk to the leadership and it's costing the firehouse. You have to be willing to love me enough to have the hard conversations with me, to tell me, Cap, you need to, or Mike, you need to tighten up. You are not behaving in the manner in which you said you wanted to behave, or you're not carrying the badge with the authenticity it deserves. Now, when you got those kind of people around you, you stop making mistakes, gang, because they don't let you make mistakes. They show you what your blind spots are. Gang, it's the same thing in the first family, first conversation. Having that open dialogue with the person that ought to be your first priority, having that open conversation helps you to recognize when the pendulum has swung too far, when you have too much work. Corley, you may laugh. During probably 2 years of my fire service career, it wasn't family and it wasn't work that I got imbalanced on. It was spending too much time with church stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because what could be more compelling than,
Right.
What could be more compelling?
Yeah.
We got so invested in our young married class at church and in my role as a deacon in a church. I can honestly tell you that I did not give Seattle Fire what I wanted to give it for a couple years. Now, I probably gave it as good as a lot of people were giving it.
Right.
I did my job.
Even you at 70% was crushing some people at their 100.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what I wasn't giving it. I wasn't giving it my attention, and I wasn't growing as a professional the way I felt like I needed to be growing. And I had to pull back from church stuff and rebalance the slate, right? It's that push and that pull. You get too far this way. I recognized it. It was brought to my attention. I started to pull back and give Seattle Fire what it deserved, both as a professional, but also just to be worthy of my paycheck.
I love it, brother. Hey, Sam, do me a favor so I don't forget it. Do that. Love me enough to not let me fail. I want to make that the Mike Gagliano episode 245 black quote. So mark it down for me. Absolutely. And don't let me forget it also. So there we go. I mean, brother, you're killing it, man. Absolutely killing it. I love having conversations with you. But I want to move to book or books that you think firefighters should be reading. I love asking this question. It's one of my favorite questions that I ask. And this is the third time you've been faced with that question. But what books do you think firefighters should be reading? It doesn't have to be a firefighter book. Just what's had an impact on your life?
Oh my gosh, I read a lot of books. If you've probably seen my library, so it's like
that's why I love asking
like
questions.
14 bookshelves loaded, and let me stay. So let me go in three different directions. On the spiritual side of things, I do not feel you can spend enough time in your Bible.
Okay.
There's lots of books that you can read that talk about the Bible. There is nothing that is transformative as the sword dividing and cutting and getting right to the heart of things. So I'd really encourage you, whatever your sacred text, whatever it is that you hold dear, that you spend time there. That's on the spiritual side of things. On the fire side of things, John Norman's book on tactics, the fire company officers handbook tactics. I've yet to see anything that actually gets to it in the way that gets to it. And it was such a formative book for me. I mean, I have like 4 different versions of it, from the old crappy version, all the way up to the brand new one's kind of cool looking and everything. I think that's an amazing and brilliant book to read. Topically, it depends upon what you want to be inspired by. What are you looking to be inspired by? On the leadership side of things, I like to keep it simple. The 2 books that I tried really hard to get my crew to read were It's Your Ship by Mike Abrashoff.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, and it was nice because it's leadership principles that work no matter where you are, what your discipline is. And it was basic stuff, it was core stuff. It's like, well, yeah, of course that works, Well, here's the important thing. Everybody says that all the time. Well, yeah, okay, so that's basic, whatever. This house rocks, man. You're not going to, when you come to This House Rocks, boy, are you going to be disappointed. We don't have anything complex or anything.
There's no complex magical formula.
No, there isn't. Yeah, no, there's no magic mushroom fever dream type of thing. It's just basic stuff that you have probably heard again and again and again. And our emphasis point is going to be put it together in a format that makes sense to you and do it. Actually do it. You got to do it. You got to. You got to stop ripping on other crews. You got to be willing to go the extra mile. There's some basic things that if we do them again and again, actually matter. And It's Your Ship is that type of book. It's that type of, it's a what do you call it? A paradigm kind of shifting type of book that, the average dummy like me can do this because that guy did it with a crappy group. He took a crappy group and made them good. What can I do with this group of mine that isn't crappy? I would recommend, and I think your encouragement was a valid one, 7 Habits.
Yes.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People is that there's more than just the circle of influence, circle of concern. Although I will tell you this, if you do anything, if you just listen to one thing from this broadcast and you get the circle of influence, circle of concern, if you learn it, if you implement it, you get happier, you get more effective, your life gets better. I've never seen it happen differently. That's
And
the way it is.
And the
One
greatest
other
part
one.
is if you do that, like you said, just a catapult is your influence grows. That's the best
Yeah,
part.
yeah,
Sorry.
Totally, yeah.
That's
I
a
I've
side
also
benefit. Go ahead.
Power of Habit is really good. If you can get the book Power of Habit, if you're looking to kind of get your habit stuff, which a lot of your progress and whatever you're doing is just a direct reflection of your habits, that is a really good book in actually making you recognize why certain things draw you to do them and why others don't, what's going on in your brain that makes you do destructive things. I think that's really good. And
Is
I
that
love the
Duhigg?
book.
Is that Charles Duhigg?
Yep,
Or is it?
Duhigg. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay. Make sure.
Yeah,
I
he's
just got
actually
hit.
he's got a handful of books, but you only want me to say a few. So yeah.
No, I got his new one. I just got his new one in the mail. Like last week, the
Yeah.
communication one, the super communicate or over communicate or whatever it is. But anyway, I'm super excited to read it. But it's on the list.
Really, really good writer and thoughtful. And
Yes.
for whatever reason, he was able to write it in a way that the dumb truck captain could kind of
Super
process.
communicator. That was it. Okay, sorry.
Well, and then another great book is On Combat by Dave Grossman.
Grossman.
Really, yeah, for relationship and everything. I think that's really. I could go on and on, dude. If you know,
Brother, yeah.
how much time do you have? And I'll start spitting out books.
You tell me when you want to stop because I'll listen to books all day long. So far,
Yeah.
you have said so. Here's just a side note, and we'll move on to the 5 questions. But when I read a book, I do a thing where I highlight it and then I type up the highlights. And I used to just type the highlights word for word so that I could go back and read the book in my own highlighted form. I could read it really fast in like 10 minutes, just looking at my couple pages of the highlights. But then I started taking my highlights and I started basically putting my own thoughts below them in a different color font, right? And that's how I build my notes. And that's fine. It's great. It's in a system. But just recently, I went back and looked at Abershoff's book, which I read like 5 years ago. And I was like, holy smokes. So much of this was what built the 9 Ls. It was such an influence.
Don't doubt it a bit.
Yeah.
Don't doubt it a bit. Yeah. Because what you were trying to do in your book, and it's obvious because it's resonating, you were trying to do foundational core, fundamental stuff that if you do this, you will see change. You will see impact. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, great list, brother. I know we should do the 4th visit with Mikey. Mikey G is nothing but books. Mikey G, 4th visit, nothing but books.
That would be, man, that might get pretty boring for people.
Other people might log out. It'll be me and you just geeking out on how much
we'll be nerding out. Yeah. Everybody else will be going, good grief.
All right, so we have a thing, and you've been through this. It's the 5 questions for firefighters. It is your opinion. There are no correct answers, and the points are arbitrary, and they're assigned by me. You've never had this version of the questions. So the first part is, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters, versions 3.3?
So ready.
All right. I'm excited for this, actually.
Ready.
Number 1, what is the skill that has carried you through your fire service career?
Boy. Yeah, that is a different question because I don't remember answering that, but that's brilliant. Good Lord. That's a great question.
I like it.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Well, thinking. I can tell it's got
5 or 6 things I try not to answer unless I can be thoughtful. So, I think probably the skill set that carried me in the good times, in the bad times, was a motor. I have a motor. And I think I've never lost sight of, or in most cases, a couple times probably, I've never lost sight of what it is that we were there to do. And I have certain strengths, I have certain weaknesses, and I'm aware of some of them. And so I'm a flawed dude and I'm a flawed tool. I got gaps, but I never let that stop me from trying to get good at this thing. That I didn't have a background in the trades. That never stopped me because I had a motor to want to get good at this thing. And it carried me through the times when I felt insecure or I failed or, I just screwed up, and didn't do good, or I looked like a dummy, or I was disillusioned, or the motor that drive to want to be good carried me through. And it also, I want to be careful how to say this because I don't want it to sound braggy or whatever. I'm not trying to be. it allowed me to tap into the parts of myself that were really good, because I got some good skill sets. I got some stuff that's really good, and the bad parts of me I can talk about all day. The good parts, it's a little bit more embarrassing, but this drive, this motor to want to be excellent at this thing, to want to know what the answer to the next question is, to want to not be a piece of crap who screwed up the last run. Because I have those. I have the moments that are embarrassing, and to not ever want to be there. That motor and that drive, it allowed everything else that's about me to actually find its voice. And to be candid, allowed me to live my dreams in the fire service. I mean, when you're ripping off in my bio some of the things that I get to do, I'm sure some of the people who know me and many of you are going, "Oh my gosh, how did that dull tool ever, go on that ride?" Gang, I showed up. I didn't let anything stop me. My motor and my drive allowed me to put me into places where maybe I was over my head, but I wasn't over my head for long, and I learned what to do, and I learned to get good, and it allowed me to do additional things. So I guess that's a long way around. There was a drive in me, a passion to want to be good and to want to be a good teammate and a good leader, and that has carried me a long way.
Man, I love the answer, because you called it a motor, and even Carpe Fuego was asking, what do you mean a skill? Is it an interpersonal skill or what? And the thing is when I asked the skill question, that's up to the answerer of the question to determine what he's going to say. And he said a motor, and it captures grit, it captures resiliency, it captures stubbornness. You know what I'm saying? It captures a little bit of ego, because you have to recognize your strengths, and humility. You have to recognize your weaknesses. Man, it's a beautiful.
Well, and just so you know, to add to it, for you guys that are listening, I shared with you that I lost members off my crew and in my firehouse all the time, the super majority of them for awesome reasons, because they were going to promote and whatever. But what that meant was I had to replace a rock star with some new person. So I was recruiting all the time. As a source of motivation or encouragement for those of you that are listening, my simple question to you would be, if you are part of Seattle Fire, you right now listening to this, if you are part of the 1,100 member Seattle Fire Department, and I'm out now looking to recruit to be a part of my team, which I'm very proud of, would you be somebody by your motor, by your performance, by your attitude, by your skill set, by your ability to get along for 24 hours in a firehouse, and for how you perform on the fire ground, would you be somebody that would get on my radar or get my attention to bring to my team? I'm not looking for low energy dudes. I'm not looking for, man, if you're a drama queen, I'd rather shoot you in the head than recruit you to my firehouse. If you're a pot stirrer, if you're a malcontent, if you're a do the bare minimum type of guy, that's not what I'm recruiting to my team. I'm looking for somebody with a motor. And you don't have to be, look, I'm not looking for all, type A with their hands in the air like me and all this kind of stuff, because we'd kill each other if I had all that. You can be a mellow dude. That has nothing to do with having a high motor. You could be a detail-oriented dude. In fact, I need that, because I'm not a detail-oriented dude.
Right.
That has nothing to do with a high motor. The drive to be good, the drive to succeed, and the drive to have the team be the best it could be. That's what I'm looking for. And I guess back to the question that you asked, that has carried me to places I could have never imagined. But so far beyond my skill set and my abilities, it's embarrassing to talk about.
I love the fact you said, "Gang, I showed up."
Yeah.
I love it, man. That is such a easiest max points I might have ever given out. I love the answer. This is the question I've been waiting to ask you for probably 100 episodes, or no, probably since we made up this question, because it's only been around for about 40 episodes. But it's Jobtown. It's time. It's rocking and rolling. You're en route and responding. You got to think of that scene from Backdraft where McCaffrey's running to catch up to the rig, and he slaps that cassette tape into that deck. What song are you playing? Mike Gagliano, what song are you choosing to play en route?
Good Lord.
I know. I love asking you this question, because you out of all people, you've probably posted more musical discussions than anybody I know. So
there's only about 10,000 songs that would work. let me be creative with it. It'll be an interesting answer because I've had a love-hate relationship with the song. But I'll tell you one that would get me there with what we're going to do is Running with the Devil by Van Halen. And I've had a love-hate relationship with that song because, as you can imagine, those of you who know the song, coming from a position of faith, singing those words, there could be a little bit of a conflict. But man, when I get on a fire truck and we're going to fight the demon and going to fight, and that dun dun dun, that brother, that would get me there. That would get me there, and I'd be ready to rock and roll. So yeah, Running with the Devil would be good. I mean, you know what? There's 10 or 12. I mean, if you played the drum solo to Panama right when I jumped in the rig, I'd probably be, in that mode. If Crazy Train, if that started going, I'd probably be, just fine. If Born to Be Wild for you, for my 60s brethren, if Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf was in the rig, it doesn't take me long to get there. I'd be just fine. Hell, you know what, brother? I love music so much. If Boy George popped on and Do You Really Want to Hurt Me came on, I'd probably be ready to fight the fires. So.
That might be the best answer. Okay. And I hope, and we may have to do a book episode with Mike Gagliano and then the music episode with Mike Gagliano and just run through all 10,000 songs. Yeah. But absolutely, I hope they add every one that you just mentioned to. There's a Spotify playlist that you can download and listen to everybody's answers to that question. And so I hope they will add every one of those to the playlist. I'm not sure
Boy George.
I'm not sure about Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? I'm not sure about that one. But I love your love for going to fires. Absolutely max points, man. That is the easy 2 for 2.
You call it Job Town. I'll never forget being a young firefighter. I was a recruit, and then I was with Captain Brooks for probably 2 years before he promoted to chief. And we had, just as the timing goes, and I want to be respectful how I say it, but we had a horrific arsonist in our town at that time. And as you would imagine, for the citizens, that's horrible. For firefighters, especially for a young firefighter, I got experience during that stretch of time that you could not, especially being young, you could not replace it, especially being on the truck. I mean, we were cutting holes a couple times a night. And, that's just not typical even for Seattle Fire. It was not typical. I got more experience in that, however long, that 3-4 months that was going on. And I just remember the captain. I can still remember it. And I said it to my recruits. I said it to all the guys that was on. I can still remember getting ready to jump on the rig. We actually it was an old truck, and we actually rode the turntable. We had big belts in the back of the cab, and we rode the turntable. So we were outside, and I can remember throwing on my gear, and you're nervous, and it's a fire. You're going to a fire. And I remember the captain just looking at me and going, "Game day." I was like, "Yeah, game day." I never have lost that feeling, that joy of getting on and going to a fire, and just that feeling of game day. I think it encapsulates it. So I don't even need the rock and roll tune when the fire.
It's just running in your veins, brother.
You got to, you got to give me Running with the Devil when we're going to a heroin overdose or something like that. That's when I need to be picked up a little bit.
I got you. Okay, I like it. Hey, I will tell you this. Michael Ramirez asked a great question here. He says, "Where did it go?" I lost it here, Michael. Oh, is this the first time we had somebody sing the songs? And I think it is. I don't know if anybody else is because he even did the John.
Oh man.
And listen, and it was really well. It was way better than mine. It was really well done.
Just for a minute, put yourself in the rig or on the back of the turntable. You're going to a known fire. Just for a minute, put Van Halen's Running with the Devil. That. Tell me that doesn't get you there. Tell me that doesn't make you want to go and punch that fire in the face and pull somebody from the jaws of the demon. It does. It really does.
Yeah, everybody agrees. There's so many max points in the chat. I can't even begin to say it. Okay. I've been working on this question because I was going to get rid of this question. And then we had a good discussion. In fact, it was last night. We had a vigilante meetup. The vigilantes got together last night, and we discussed new questions for because we're always looking for what's the next 5 questions going to be, because we try to change them at least every at least every 100, but maybe more often if they get stale. But we talked about this one, and I'm going to keep it this way, which is, what is your favorite fire service tradition? And the truth of the matter is, I was going to get rid of it because there's only so many traditions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you get a lot of repeats, but it's not important that you find a new tradition nobody's heard of. It's what's important is why you picked the tradition you picked.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite fire service tradition?
That's like saying what's your favorite rock band almost. It's like, man, I'll tell you the one that's really meaningful to me. I loved when it happened. I love being present when it happens. It goes back to how we started this whole thing, and your calling, it being a calling,
right?
Important and valuable. There's not too many better moments, tradition wise, than when you watch a loved one pin the badge on a firefighter for the first time. And I'll tell you what I love about that moment. It's the right image. And I think maybe even it'd be something, I haven't really thought about it before until now, but if you appeal back to that day when somebody you love pinned your badge on your chest, you're in good sequence there. You're in the right balance at that point, because the job damn sure matters at that moment. I mean, you're taking on our calling, and you're taking on our badge, and baby, that badge is sacred and it matters, and people have sacrificed for it, and you damn well need to be worthy of it. You need to earn it. Every time you have it on your chest, you need to commit to earning it. But it's also, you're in alignment there, because you're giving respect and deference and importance to somebody that you love, your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your mom or your dad or your kids, whatever you're doing. You're giving that deference to, you are important to me, even in this sacred professional moment. There is an acknowledgement that you're important on this end of things, and you're bestowing this on me, and I'm going to uphold it. And I feel like it's just, I've always loved it. It's a cool moment of, family, sacred, professional tradition. I wish we could keep that. I wish we could find ways to bottle that. But I suppose if I had one that I had to highlight, amongst all of them, there's a ton that I could bring up. I really have always enjoyed that. And, it's amazing to me. Some of you get the privilege of doing it. I didn't have a family member who was in the fire service. We would always, man, when we had like somebody's father who was on the job.
Yes. The legacy.
Damn, man. I mean, and it's always fun if the person at the microphone has a clue and isn't just running through some stupid scripted thing, but actually stands at the microphone and gives that moment the sacredness that it's due, and says, and now, upholding a family legacy in the Seattle Fire Department, and the firefighter who's been a firefighter pinning it on their son or on their family member or their brother, and giving that sacred moment that legacy and importance that it deserves. I don't know how you do better than that. I mean, there's others that probably match up to it, but I don't know how you do better than that moment of, family and sacred and the job, and doing it the right way and having the right priorities. I don't know if there's a better snapshot than that.
Brother, sometimes I wonder if I'm making the right choices in the questions I ask, and you just completely validated and vindicated sticking with the tradition question, because you just knocked that out of the park, not only with the callback to the calling, but tying it into everything, brother. Easy, 3 for 3, max points. The absolute audience agrees. Brilliant answer. They said this is the best. Josh Everett said this is the best answer to this question with the perfect reasons. Timestamp. So timestamp is the new, I think we're going to have to turn timestamp into I don't know if it's a drinking game for the scrap or what we need to do with timestamp, but we'll go on. Number 4. This is one of my favorite questions, and this one's the one that's on the clock. So there is a time element. You get 1 minute to answer. 1 minute. You
got to remember that I'm kind of slow and not that smart. So could it be 90 seconds? I'm joking.
I know. Sam's really brilliant at times, but 60 seconds. You get the Mount Rushmore of the fire service, according to Mike Gagliano. It could be personal reasons. It could be
no problem.
Whatever the reason is, and go.
John Norman, FDNY. I learned from John the importance of tactics. I learned from him the relevance of studying tactics, and that a simple guy like me could do it and be good at it. I'll forever be transformed by that guy. John Mittendorf. That's where I learned about truck work and the importance of truck work and the value of truck work. John articulated it in a way that I had never heard before, and it was compelling, and again, that it was doable. And he was also one of the single most compelling men of God I've ever met. Alan Brunacini, America's fire chief. I learned more from Alan about leadership and about taking care of the people that are around you and the intrinsic value of the people around you, the fire service and the importance of it than anybody. And then Bill Guston is my engine guy, and a passion in instructing, a commitment to the craft. And he articulates the importance of engine work and knowing the systems in the building like I have. Breathtaking, the commitment that guy has. Those would be my 4. And then because I'm a truck captain and I never do what I'm told to do, my 5th one is Bobby Halton. The late Bobby Halton was an intellectual. Bobby got me to think about the deep issues of the fire service in a way that nobody had ever done before. He was like, I've never done magic mushrooms and I've never done LSD. So Corley, maybe you can say what that was like when you were doing that stuff. I've never done that stuff, but it felt like when I had communication with Bobby that my mind expanded to stretch, to go to places and think in a way about the fire service that I had never done before. So sorry about that. I know that's a breaking of the rules, but
I love the fact that you qualified the breaking of the rules with I'm a knuckle dragging truckie, so here goes. It's like, sorry, Cap. Sorry, Chief.
No, the 4, the 4 that I mentioned. No
ask
question.
for forgiveness after, but no, brother. I absolutely love Norman Mittendorf, Brunacini, Guston, Halton. I'm sorry, brother. I don't know if you could do better than that. As far as if you're going for impact on the fire service. So excellent answer. Despite the breaking of the truckie, or despite the truckie saying, hey, what I do is break stuff. I'm a truckie. So,
well, and 4 is a bad number because every truck ought to have 5 members on it. So
again,
every truck in the nation ought to be staffed with 5 firefighters. That's the way it is. And if you get 6, great, but 5 is what it ought to be. You know what? Can I say one other thing about those guys?
Hit it.
There's not a jerk in the bunch.
Mm.
They're all, so many guys that are accomplished in the craft start to take themselves so seriously, and they start to believe their press. I'm telling you, those 5 guys, they were so influential. They were so transformative in the way they thought. Their motor was, inspirational. And every single one of those guys would sit down with you and share from their heart what they know, what they've been taught, what they believe, and they would call you Mike, and they would call you Corley, and they wouldn't think anything of it. Just total examples about the way you should conduct yourself and carry yourself in the fire service, at least with my exposure to them.
And I'll tell you this, that seems to be a recurring theme with the people that are revered in this profession. And the present company, no exception to that. So I hope you take that as a compliment. So, final question, number 5. Heavy fire, searchable space. Would you rather?
Van Halen's playing.
Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
Oh, man. You know what? That's just so you know, let me be polite. That's an incomplete question.
Okay.
Here's why it's incomplete. There ought to be 3 choices, and it'll make it harder. First in on the nozzle, first in on VES, or with the saw opening up the roof. That ought to be the 3 choices, because all 3 of them are crucial and critical and essential. And but let me answer it the way you asked it.
Okay.
I'm not diminishing being on the nozzle, because there's nothing cooler than just knocking down the beast. I absolutely love the part of truck work that was always really compelling to me was how nonlinear it was. Engine work, even though it's not like engine work is easy or simple or whatever, but it is more linear. It's you have got to figure out how to get the water from here to there. And it's literally the single most important part of the fireground operation. I mean, I always joke with my truck friends, don't be too dismissive of the engine folks, because truck work exists 100% to support the engine. I said this in a class and I got a bad review because it was a little bit off color, but it was a room full of truckies and a few engine guys, and they were busting the engine guys' chops. And I said, whoa. I get it. I'm a truck captain, but you truckies recognize one thing, right? You know what you are in fire service vernacular. These are the hose guys. So if we're thinking about it and we're squirting water and we're in a hose, what's that most like? It's kind of like urinating and whatever. You're the truck, you're coming along to support the hose. So what's the most typical thing that supports the hose? It's a jock strap, right? So truckies, you're the jock strap of the fire service. Your whole job is to wrap around, come up, and support the hose. I wasn't the popular dude in the truck room that day, baby.
You got some bad reviews.
Yeah. You know what, dude? I would have to say, just because it's so nonlinear and it's so complex, I think vent enter search is it's a magical, incredible tactic that you do not get to do very much, at least really do it. That probably is what I would do. I never got to do it that much. So I would love to do vent enter search and actually get in there and do it. And you know what? Do it in the right way. And let me close the question out with this as an encouragement to everybody. Seattle Fire was not a vent enter search fire department for the majority of the time that I was there, for many reasons. And some of it was because the tactic was so overused.
Okay.
It was so poorly used by a lot of departments that our leadership felt like we would misuse it. I can tell you that we fought like crazy because the tactic is so important and so crucial and so essential. We fought like crazy to change their minds. And I can remember being in meeting after meeting, trying to change our leadership's mind about allowing us to change our policy on vent enter search. We even changed the name of it so they wouldn't freak out about the name.
What'd you call it?
We call it targeted search.
Okay.
Targeted search. So it wasn't vent enter search, which has a stigma attached to it. Right. Guys doing dumb crap. That's how far we went to try to get it approved. We fought and we fought and we fought, and I had some incredibly freaking frustrating moments trying to convince actually really good people. It wasn't like they were bad tactical people. Some of them were guys you would want to work for, but they just had this stigma against getting people to go through windows and above the fire and all this stuff. We fought it and we fought it and we fought it. And at least while I was there, we were not completely successful in winning the fight. But about a couple years after, because of that groundwork and guys that came before me, they actually got a change to actually do vent enter search. And I have a video clip of our guys going in and doing a vent enter search where they actually saved somebody. And it was the stamp paid due of all that work to try to make a change and to battle against forces. And, you don't always win,
Right.
I wish one of your questions was, what is your favorite leadership quote? Because you'd be disappointed in mine. It's not one of the sexy ones.
Here's the deal. I run the show, so I can say this right now. I can say, sixth question. What's your favorite leadership quote?
My favorite leadership quote is, we may not win, but we can deserve to win. We may not prevail, but we can do the things necessary to deserve to prevail, because it's not always up to you whether you win or lose. There's 1,000 factors out there that are warring against you being able to be successful or not. You guys in the fire service, you're in the middle of it, because you don't get to tell your fire chief what to do. You don't get to tell your officer what to do. You don't even get to tell the fire what to do. Sometimes you go there and you kick butt and take names and the people die. And you gave them the best shot they were going to have, but on that day, it wasn't meant to happen. We may not win. We may not prevail. We may not change our fire chief's mind about vent enter search, but we did every single thing we could to craft an argument that would change his mind. And eventually, we bounced enough BBs off the battleship. Vent enter search is a tactic in Seattle Fire today, and there are people alive because of it. That's what I want to encourage you to be about. Don't concern yourself with the fact that you may not win every single battle, because you're not. Do the things that put you in a position to win the battle. And if the circumstances keep you from winning it, there you go. That's just life. You got to be an adult. You got to be a big boy and recognize you ain't going to get everything you want. And if you're all about just throwing a tantrum every time you don't get what you want, don't bother petitioning to become a member of my firehouse, because we dream big dreams. We're trying to do a lot of different cool things. And by default, that means we don't win all the time, and we fail sometimes and we screw things up. And let's face it, you're working for a fallen, failed, not complete officer who's going to screw some things up, like as a lieutenant, talk about politics and screw things up. But gang, we can deserve to win. We can do the things that put us in a position to win, and it makes it that much more likely that we're going to win. So I guess the short answer is, dude, I would probably do Venator search.
I love it, brother. There it is. Officially, the 6 questions for firefighters with 5 people on Mount Rushmore answers from Mike Gagliano. And that officially makes it 245 scraps in the books. Brother, that was killer. Absolutely killer. Captain Mike Gagliano, thank you for being with us this evening. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way that they can do so?
Well, you can get me on Facebook. I think I may be the one or two Mike Gallianos on there. You can get me on LinkedIn, same thing. You certainly can email me. I don't need any crap about still having an AOL account, but my email is MikeYay@AOL.com, Mikey J. Don't forget the Y. Or you can, surely you can reach out to Corley, and Corley knows how to get a hold of me. And gang, just, hey, from the bottom of my heart, I hope some of this made sense. I get going, and I hope it made sense. More importantly than anything, I hope in some way, shape, or form that I've touched your heart a little bit for you to realize that what you do really matters, and that you can be good at this thing, and it's worth being good at this thing. There are people all over the nation right now that are looking around for something to believe in, and we're watching it in campus protests and gangs and cults, and they're looking for something where they can belong and where they can be a part of something. And I just want to encourage you that you have it. You are a part of something that matters. And I know for some of you, it may not feel that great, or it may feel less than what you thought it was going to be. My encouragement to you is to make it what you want it to be, and to have the career that you want to have, and to get around the people that are going to build in you and motivate you. And I know that's a good chunk of why Corley's has been successful, is talking about those things and highlighting those things. I just want to encourage you, man, to love this cool thing of ours, enjoy it, have a blast. And it's really been an honor to spend time with you. I really appreciate it.
Brother, great. Absolutely. I'm telling you, man, this has been an enjoyable scrap for me. And I say that a lot. I do say that a lot, because I have the best guests. I mean, honestly, I'll be honest. It's just, and they just deliver. They just deliver. So housekeeping, wrapping up the show, go to firehousevigilance.com, become a vigilante. We are on Patreon now. You can be a vigilante. We are the like-minded souls. We are never alone. And you can be a part of it. It's a blast. After this, they're the ones who come into the scrap after party, which is Mike said he's going to come to the after party, but I don't think when he committed, he realized he was going to talk for 2 hours. So he may or may not be there. I'll give him an out, but we're going to be doing it right after this. And you have to be a vigilante to participate. Next week, it is Anthony Castros. I've been trying to get him on for like a year, and he's coming on. Anthony Castros, new book with Brian Brush. Of course, if you've ever taken one of his classes, you know how much of a dynamic instructor that he is. He's impressive. Then we have the company officer, Michael Dozier. I just got to hang out with him the last couple of days up in Washington. It was a good time. And then it is Dennis Laguerre. Again, might be one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, honestly, I'll be real. Yeah. He's one of those people that when he talks, I just feel dumber, because he's so intelligent. Yeah. And, of course, we're creeping closer and closer to that number 250. So it is going to be loud, and it is going to be long. So get ready for it. We'll try to break the internet one more time. How good has 2024 been already? Thank you, Captain Mike Gagliano, for being such a phenomenal guest. Vigilantes, Sam will be posting the link to get into the after party. Mike has agreed to come. Audience, man, I can't ever tell you enough. I say this every time, and I know you guys probably get tired of hearing it, but you make the scrap magical. It is you interacting and sending those great questions that make, you guys send them right at Mike, and he crushes them. It's a beautiful, beautiful dynamic, and it would not exist without you. So thank you for tuning in live each and every week. I love you all. Remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent. And I'm going to ask Mike to do it one more time. It's Running with the Devil. Come on.
Down, dun, 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 dun.
There you go. Unless
Rock
it's
on,
burning.
guys.
Everybody, stay safe out there. We're clear.